The Valdari council chamber buzzed with frustrated clicks and whirs as Ambassador Zethka reviewed the expedition reports for the 47th time. For 3 centuries, the galaxy's most advanced civilizations had studied the derelict vessel, buried beneath the crystalline ice of Kepler 442b. The ship's technology could revolutionize faster than light travel, yet every attempt to activate it had failed spectacularly. "The humans have requested to examine the artifact," announced Counselor Vexra, her translucent tentacles rippling with disdain. "These primitives, who barely achieved interstellar flight a decade ago." Zethka's mandibles clicked dismissively. "Let them try. Perhaps their failure will finally convince the Council to seal the site permanently." 3 days later, James Rodriguez stepped off the transport shuttle onto the frozen world's surface, his breath forming small clouds despite the environmental suit's heating system. Beside him, Dr. Lisa Chen adjusted her scientific equipment, her eyes bright with curiosity behind her helmet's visor. "I still can't believe they're letting us near this thing," Lisa whispered over the comm. "Every major species in the galaxy has taken a crack at it." James shouldered his toolkit, the worn leather case that had belonged to his grandfather and his grandfather before him. "Maybe that's exactly why they need us. Sometimes you need fresh eyes. Not more of the same." The excavation site stretched before them like a metallic canyon carved into the ice. The ship's hull gleamed with an otherworldly luminescence, its surface covered in geometric patterns that seemed to shift when viewed directly. Valdari technicians moved about with practiced efficiency, their movements precise and calculated. "The power core remains completely inert," explained Chief Engineer Kolvor, his cybernetic implants humming as he processed data streams. "We've attempted quantum resonance activation, plasma induction, even temporal field manipulation. Nothing." Lisa ran her scanners along the hall, frowning at the readings. "The metal composition is unlike anything in our databases. It's almost organic?" James had stopped listening to the technical discussion. Something else had caught his attention, a sound so faint it was barely perceptible, like a distant drumbeat echoing through the ice. He pressed his gloved hand against the hull, feeling a subtle vibration that seemed to match his own pulse. "Do you hear that?" he asked, interrupting the scientists. The Valdari exchanged glances. "Hear what, human?" Kolvor's voice carried a note of condescension. "Our acoustic sensors detect only standard environmental noise." But James was already walking along the hull, following the rhythm that seemed to grow stronger with each step. Lisa watched him with growing fascination as he stopped at what appeared to be an unremarkable section of the ship's surface. "Here," James said, his voice filled with quiet certainty. "It's strongest here." He opened his toolkit and withdrew a simple stethoscope, an antique medical device that his great-grandmother had used decades before. Advanced scanners made such instruments obsolete. The Valdari observers chittered with what sounded like amusement. "The human intends to diagnose the vessel with primitive auditory equipment," Kolvor translated for his colleagues, who responded with harmonious clicks of laughter. James ignored them, pressing the stethoscope against the hull. The sound that filled his ears was unmistakable, a slow, steady rhythm that pulsed with the patience of eons. Not the mechanical beat of an engine, but something far more primal and alive. "Lisa, come here," he called softly. She approached and he handed her the stethoscope. Her eyes widened as the sound reached her ears. "My God, James, it's like a heartbeat." "Not like," James corrected, pulling out a simple percussion hammer from his toolkit. "It is a heartbeat. This isn't just a ship, it's a living being." The Valdari had fallen silent, their previous amusement replaced by skeptical attention. James began tapping gently along the hull in a specific pattern, matching the rhythm he could hear. The percussion was soft, almost tender, like a doctor checking reflexes or a mechanic listening to an engine's timing. Nothing happened for several minutes. Then, impossibly, the hull began to warm beneath their hands. "Energy readings are spiking," Lisa shouted, her instrument suddenly blazing with activity. The power core is responding. James continued his gentle tapping, speaking softly to the ship as if it were a frightened animal. Easy, girl. We're not here to hurt you. We just want to help you wake up. The geometric patterns along the hull began to glow, pulsing in sync with the rhythm James maintained. Ancient systems hummed to life with a sound like distant singing. The ice around the excavation site started to crack and sublime as the ship's dormant heating systems activated. Impossible, breathed Colvor, his cybernetic implants overloading from the sudden flood of data. The vessel is achieving full operational status. How did the human... Because he listened, Lisa said, her voice filled with wonder as she watched the ship slowly rise from its icy tomb. Every species that came here tried to force it awake with technology, with power, with logic. But James did what humans do best. He listened with his heart instead of his head. The ship fully emerged from the ice, its biometallic hull shimmering with renewed life. A section of the hull irised open, revealing an interior that pulsed with gentle organic light. The vessel wasn't just alive, it was grateful. As the Valdari scrambled to document this unprecedented breakthrough, James smiled beneath his helmet. In his toolkit, beside instruments that had been passed down through generations of mechanics, lay the real tools of his trade: intuition, empathy, and the uniquely human ability to see life where others saw only machinery. The galaxy's greatest minds had failed because they had approached the ship as a problem to be solved. James had succeeded because he had approached it as a friend to be awakened. Sometimes the most advanced solution was also the most human one.